Hello and welcome to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Make sure you find the Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, and please rate and review the show. Reminder, we're streaming live on Sportsnet's YouTube channel and airing live on Sportsnet 360 Monday to Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. I'm your host, William Liu. Joint producer and co-host Alex Wong. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? You like me, just waiting for the trade deadline
100%, yeah.
on Thursday?
Yeah.
I feel like we're just in this holding pattern, but
I wonder what we're
Here
going to
we
talk
are.
about today, man. Is it going to be more trade deadline stuff? I mean, probably, yeah.
yeah, there was a earth-shattering trade over the weekend, and we can talk about that. Lots of Raptors. Actually, not a lot of Raptors news. There are a couple items here and there, and but yeah, you know, the Raptors won 2 games on the weekend.
Hey,
You know,
aren't you
you
excited?
seem thrilled.
Aren't you excited? Battling back from slow starts against Houston and Memphis. Memphis, by the way, 1-9 or 1-8 in their last 9 games, and also
Pointing
without-
pointing lasers at people.
yeah. Wow, damn.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll touch on that later. But no John Moran as well. No Dylan Brooks, who was suspended due to fighting.
No Steven Adams.
No Steven Adams out with injury.
The big Kiwi. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, I suppose it was good to see the Raptors sort of like overcome those slow starts. I didn't like how they just like came out so flat both games.
Right.
You know, like the fact that you had to call the first time out against Houston because you're down like 14-2 is just really tough. And then you do the same thing the next game out against a Grizzlies team where you know exactly where the dangerous spots are going to be with Desmond Bane.
Santi Aldama.
Well, okay, that one you probably couldn't have foreseen
That's
coming.
my guy.
That, he has a lot of confidence for a guy who's not that good. But
even David Roddy.
sure,
There's a lot of guys yesterday.
I'm good. I'm good on some of those players, man.
I said I'm good in the East.
But yeah, like, you know, they got off to a really slow start, and I think that for me watching them, like the starting group, I think really is starting to run out of gas. It's very concerning to me that Pascal is looking the way he's looking right now. You know, Fred's had to sort of take over, but we know what it looks like when Fred takes over, right? It's really hit or miss. It's literally you're living and dying off of him hitting or missing. Your shooting has really taken a hit now with OG out, and so you really had to like scrap and claw through these games, and that's where you got to really credit some of the bench guys. Where I thought Chris Boucher was really good on like 4 or 5 of the games on this road trip. And he definitely was a key piece in turning around against Memphis, a key piece in turning around against Houston. Did the same thing against the Utah Jazz as well. The Raptors just didn't close out that game. So you really needed a lot of contributions off your bench. And then, of course, you know, we finally got like one nice little takeaway moment for the trip. I mean, I suppose the Sacramento game was actually really good, but that feels like so long ago. But to end off on the trip, they ended up on a high. Scotty Barnes with 13 of his 16 points in the fourth quarter, takeover kind of performance. And, yeah, you know, it if nothing else, you can at least be hype over, you know, Scotty showing once again that he can take over in the fourth.
Yeah, 13 points, you know, 6 of 7 from the field. Obviously, 2 huge baskets in the final minute, including that jump hook over Jaren Jackson Jr., Triple J. By the way, his nickname on Basketball Reference is the Block Panther.
That's...
Are we not? No,
Yeah.
we're not okay with that one? Anything but Triple J, man.
Triple J, yeah.
Triple J, it's just, I don't know why it's so annoying to me.
What have you called him? The set?
Is that what we're calling him?
Because he's Trip Jack.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe. Anyways, I
Okay,
like the Block
alright.
Panther, but you didn't have a very good reaction to it.
That's fine.
But
I never heard anyone say that to him, ever. I mean, we watched the entire
I just
game last
can't
night. No one
picture,
said
like,
a single thing
Kevin
about
Harlan saying that on like a national game.
that. Yeah,
The
well,
Block Panther. Yeah, Scotty taking over.
Mm.
You know, it's a nice fourth quarter from the Raptors.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, making that comeback, which you rarely see. You know, you see them having these. No, but it's true though, right?
Oh, man.
Like there's been all these jokes about, you know, the NBA, the NFL being scripted. Like the Raptors have been scripted to a T this season
Yeah.
in terms of the things that you expect to see from them.
Well,
And on this road trip, you saw that a lot, but they were, I mean, I guess if you pick and choose, like the Sacramento win was nice. I
no,
think
that was genuinely like
yeah.
one of their nicest games of the
Portland, they jumped out to a really convincing lead, able to get that done.
season.
And I mean, the Houston game was just miserable.
Oh, that was
Like, were
that
you
was such a nasty
reevaluating
game.
some things? Like, just like, you know, damn. Like,
Good night, Houston!
oh man.
oh,
I
by the way,
couldn't
get well
wait.
soon, Devlin.
That's right. Get well soon.
Get well soon, Devlin. But that was a miserable game that they were able to, you know.
I'm not
pull
gonna
out.
lie to you. Aside from the notes that I take on every game from 10 things, I've forgotten about that Houston game.
Yeah.
But I do remember some like small moments from it that were just very frustrating. Like the fact that the first possession of the game, Deshaun Nix walked straight to the basket for a layup, no help. on the layup, or Kenyon Martin Jr. dunking the ball repeatedly, or I don't even understand what Delano Banton was trying to accomplish in some of those minutes. Not to single him out because he literally only played 2, but he made 5 mistakes. Like, he literally made a mistake on every single possession that he was involved in, offensively or defensively. So that game was ugly, but the Raptors were able to pull through. I mean, the Memphis game was, like, if we're going to be honest about it, was also like a true struggle, and it really shouldn't have been like that. But, I think they did at least fight through. I mean, the fact that they're on the 7th game of the road trip and all the rumors are that, the team is going to be disbanded and all this other stuff, like, I'm sure it wasn't easy to play through that. So it's on a human perspective, the fact that they came together and won in the end. Am I selling you on this win or no? No,
I mean, yeah.
Do you buy that? Is there something to that?
I guess just at this point, it's just given the body of work and just haven't seen any consistency this season. It's hard to get excited about any of these wins.
Yeah, that's
like even yesterday, you're watching them in the first half, and you're like, where's the defensive intensity? Like,
none.
once again, like, this is another team kind of going back to that Minnesota game that is not at full strength, like a game that you should just take.
Yeah.
And again, they just decide to just, have a track meet. And, but yes, the Scotty thing is a positive.
No,
I mean, let's not downplay that, right?
Absolutely,
like,
absolutely.
I think.
And I think it's also just good to see the Raptors, like, win a close
We're really
game
struggling
finally.
with this Raptors thing.
Again, I'm trying my best here.
Scotty Barnes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that's what
honestly,
we need right
that's one of the most positive parts of the entire season is Serge Ibaka saying that. No, but seriously, the Raptors have, like, just a painful record with close games, as we know, right? In terms of most losses in the season in games that are clutch games, because we're not talking, because, like, there's teams like Houston that just get blown out all the time, right? Charlotte has 21 losses in crunch time. Utah has 20.
They have 21.
Yeah. OKC has 19.
Okay.
And then Toronto, Houston, and Washington are all tied with 18 each, right? So, like, we know the Raptors are not, like, one of the 5 worst teams in the league, although I guess theoretically they're not too far
They're
off.
right there. And
But that's one of the main reasons is they haven't been able to win close games. So at least they were able to see that, a close result go in their favor against Memphis. That's about it for positivity. I'm trying my best here, man. The weather's cleared up, in Toronto. It's no longer -20. It's just -3.
Yeah, I think the sun is out today.
Yeah. So that's why I'm trying to bring some positivity. But
Asian dad.
this is where it ends for me.
You just wrote your 10 things for, I guess, for this. Is it for this road trip or for this past week?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. There has been less of a desire on my part to write 10 things after some of these games. I don't think anyone wanted to see 10 things from Raptors Rockets, for example.
Yeah.
I don't even think people really want to see 10 things from Raptors Grizzlies. And so I took your advice finally, which was just to, like, write one column at the end of the week.
My advice is always do less.
Yeah. And so that's what I did. So I dropped a cool 2,500 word 10 things on the editors. So to them, I apologize, but
anything from those things that you wanna bring to the table? Because like, let's just look at it overall. Like,
sure,
we know that the Raptors are in the position that they're in. They're still 12th in the East. 25-30. They've got this 5-game homestand coming up. There's only 1 game left until the trade deadline. And I think going into the 7-game road trip, like, I don't know if anything was ever going to change where this team was at, right? Like, in terms of heading into the deadline?
I mean, I think there's maybe an alternate universe where OG doesn't get injured and the Raptors go 6-1 on this road trip. And I know that sounds like such a big if, and it's like, okay, of course, if we flip some games, you might look better. But if you look at it, that game against Phoenix where they lost by 1 possession and Mikal Bridges is going off, you're telling me OG Anunoby in that game, instead of, like, Juancho, instead of, like, Thad Young, instead of whoever, wouldn't have changed that game? Of course that one changes for me, right? That one's undeniable to me. The Utah game, OG would have been in to guard Lauri Markkanen, who was able to get at Pascal repeatedly. Pascal looks like he's just his legs are so gone over the course of this road trip. He just looks exhausted. But you change up those 2 aspects, and again, that Utah game was also last possession kind of game. You really could have finished this road trip 6-1. However, even if they did, I wouldn't be super thrilled about the fact that they did that, right? Like, which were the marquee wins that you were able to sort of, like, hang your hat on last season? I thought they were able to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. They were able to really compete with Phoenix, which at that time was like a 60-win team. And they were able to beat Phoenix as well. They were able to that triple overtime game with Miami, right? They beat Philly a couple times as well. Like, there were so many games where you're like, okay, if we really focus on the positives, these are the big wins that we were able to capture. And I just don't really see that for the Raptors. Even the opportunity wasn't even there over the course of this 7-game road trip. Maybe if you went into Golden State and did something, but Golden State just so thoroughly dismantled the Raptors. And I think when you think, and my point number 2 in the 10 things that I wrote about this road trip, point 2 was just like how much the Raptors don't look like a team that plays together. Like the talent already is what it is, and like, you know, they're gonna need to really be cohesive to overcome some of their talent shortcomings because they rarely have the best player on the court, but they don't even play together as a team a lot of the times. What made the Sacramento game stand out for me in the road trip was how much they helped each other on defense, right? There were plays, especially in that third quarter, where, and I described it at that time 2 weeks ago, it was like OG was helping for Pascal, and Fred was helping for OG, and Scotty was there, and Pascal was there, and they were walling off the paint against De'Aaron Fox's drives, and they're getting back early in transition, and they were showing different looks against Sabonis, and it was looking great. It's like, okay, that's what a team that plays together looks like. But you also saw like so many moments of disharmony over the course of this trip. Even last alone, there was a play where, you know, Chris Boucher cut, and Chris was having a good game. And whatever, nobody ever feeds Chris Boucher in the post, but he literally has Tyus Jones on him.
Oh, this one he was throwing his hands up.
There was a full foot in height difference, and he cut through the lane. Fred decided not to pass to him, held onto the ball, and shot a contested 3. And after not receiving the pass, you could literally see Chris Boucher jumping up and down in frustration. You know what I mean? And you see a lot of like guys throwing their hands up, right? You saw Fred yelling at Christian Coloco after a missed defensive rotation in this road trip. You saw how many times did Gary not make the right pass in transition. And to me, it was like, okay, it's kind of funny that he didn't hit it ahead to Malachi at the end of that Houston Rockets game, and instead he held on to the free throw instead of giving Malachi the open layup, because that didn't really matter. The Raptors were up 6, and whether he goes to the free throw line and he's an 85% free throw shooter and knocks down 2 free throws, or he gives it up to Malachi who scores a guaranteed 100% layup, it doesn't matter. The outcome of the game doesn't change. But to me, it's like that's less funny when it happens against Phoenix and he doesn't pass to Pascal on 2 fast breaks and they lose that game by 1 possession. Right. And so you see these moments where they don't really play together. You see the lack of help defense. Most prominently, you see that issue with Golden State. Both times Raptors play Golden State, they've gotten like 126 and 130 points. And the reason that that issue appears the most with Golden State is because they're the best passing team in the league. They're moving, they're cutting. You really need to communicate and switch and track all these to the shooters and all that kind of stuff. It looks so bad against Golden State because the Raptors generally have a bad problem that just really magnifies it. And so when they don't play as a team, you really, really do see a lot of the flaws and the issues. And listen, like guys can play better. Like Fred has really elevated his play over the course of the road trip, or, you know, Chris Boucher, for example, has come out strong in the road trip. But that only masks it to some degree, right? If they don't play as a team, like you're just not going to see this group ever get to the potential that it has.
Yeah, no, I think the connectivity and all of that has just been a huge issue this season, and I don't think anything about the record on this road trip has changed anything about that. I think all the things that you point out about it, right?
No, it was a chore to watch some of these games.
Yeah, and I know we've been talking about trade rumors for like weeks now and stuff, but there is a part it's just a little disheartening to realize that, like, you know, this group is just not able to get it together.
Well, they're just not really choosing to commit to each other in that same way. And that's the part to me that's like the lingering impression on this entire season. When people ask me like 5-6 years down the line, hey, what happened with that Raptors team? They were coming out of the 48-win season. They had they had the rookie of the year. They had Precious, who was coming into his own. Pascal's going to be healthy for the whole year, and Fred's going to help, you know, all this other stuff. OG might take a leap, you know. They added Otto Porter, which at that time looked like a good idea. But it was like, what happened to that team, and why do they ultimately fall apart, and why do they ultimately move some players to the deadline? My whole thing is just, it's one of those seasons where they just couldn't gel as a group, as a team. They don't make enough plays for each other. And, you know, realistically, like, you need that in any sort of team sport. And that's a disappointing thing, because it's not necessarily things that they can't control. Obviously, in terms of talent, this is not a contender. But in terms of talent, they're good enough to be in the playoff race. They're good enough to even be outside of the play-in competition.
I mean, even right now with the way that they've been struggling, but they're like a 3-game win streak away from being in the play.
Yeah, for sure. They're 2.5 games out of the 5th best lottery position, and they're also 2.5 games back of 8th place in the Eastern Conference, right? But the issue is they shouldn't even have to be asking themselves this question if they committed to each other as a team. And that's where, to me, it's just so disappointing. That's within their own control.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's tough, too, when you have this collection and it's, you know, you talk about the contracts that are coming up, and we were talking about role definition at the start of this season, too. I feel like a lot of those things just never kind of coalesce for them. Like all the issues that I think we pointed out at the start of the season that, like, could be issues, like, did end up becoming that. Yeah, I don't know. Like, you know, 4 days left till the deadline. Like, I mean, I'd be pretty shocked if they didn't do anything at this point.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like I feel like the front office should have a pretty accurate assessment of where this team is at. And I really don't think you can go past Thursday with even just minor moves.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I would expect at least one of the starters to be moved, maybe two. But I mean, I think the question to me is like not what they can do this season, because I think even if they quote unquote turn it around and they have this like, for some reason they start playing together as a team and everyone buys into their roles and plays as hard as they can and no one gets hurt, like they're a first round exit, like at best this season, at best. And that's like the, if everything goes right from here on forward. But I think the question is like, is there a long-term future to this core, right? Like I think last year when we thought about the core, it was sort of the core four, right? And it was Scotty, OG, Fred, Pascal, right? I wouldn't say there are four core guys on the team anymore. Obviously Gary has sort of like maybe at times been a core five and jumped in and out, but to be honest, it's kind of, he is what he is. He's a good player for sure, right? But, at the same time, when you look at some of the plays in terms of like, do they make plays for each other? Gary's the one guy that really stands out as like, doesn't really help others on defense and doesn't help each other on offense. Clearly, he's very good on offense and finishing plays, but that's a different aspect of the game. That's where the front office really has to look at it. Is there a future for this core as a four? And whether that's a personality fit, whether that's like the fact that on an encore fit, I don't think anyone that has like significant issues with each other. I know there's been a lot of speculation on that front. I don't think that that's the case. However, I think the simple fact is like, is there a future with this specific core? And if there isn't, then you really have to make them decisions. And yeah, I'm definitely on the camp that like you take a step back this year, you get a good pick for this year, you develop some of your younger pieces, you don't overextend some of your starters. Like, look how tired Pascal is. Like, there's just it sucks because like back-to-back seasons we've seen all-star level play from Pascal and then also for Fred, and by the time it got to this point in the season, they're already burnt out.
Yeah,
right? Back-to-back seasons.
Yeah, that's a really good point because like Fred was pushing and had such a good first half of last season.
Yeah,
and you saw the way he just broke down, right?
Yes,
broke down in the second half and in the playoffs as well. I do think that's one of the main things too, aside from just like looking at which starter you're going to trade and like the core group. Like the depth thing just has to get addressed at this point. Like it's just not like whichever starters you move forward with, like I just don't think you can be playing the 36, 37, 38 minutes.
Yeah. Well, no, it catches up to you. Like, yes, of course you can squeeze out some results doing that, right? And of course there have been games this season where the Raptors specifically won because Nick was willing to play his starters 40 minutes and the other team was only playing like 32, 33, right? And of course that's going to change. But however, with the Raptors, like you really only have like 7 guys when everyone's fully healthy that you can consistently turn to. Maybe 7.5, because Chris is more of a half. Although Chris on this road trip was very good, so you want to give him some credit. But on the season, he's reliable half the time, right? But the 7 guys are the starting 5 when everyone's healthy, which is Fred, Gary, OG, Scotty, Pascal, and then you have Precious off the bench, right? I would say Thad is actually fairly reliable, but they don't really use him that much.
Yeah.
But when he does play, like yesterday, for example, when he played, I was like, okay, all right, that you can use Thad. You can use him in a pick and roll. You can use him in the post. He helps with the ball movement. He makes unselfish plays. He's defensively not good because he's old and you can't really play him on the perimeter because he doesn't have the foot speed, and you can't really play him at center because obviously he's not challenging and JJ any shots. But like, he makes team plays. I actually find him reliable. The thing is like, how do you manage that to be something that's actually functional? And of course, if you sustain any injuries here or there, who can step up? And that's where the bench, it's been disappointing. Like I really wanted to see in the last 2 seasons, one of Malachi or Delano really take that mantle as the third guard, because that's so clearly a huge weakness to me. If the bench group has one guy who can drive them forward, I think they can be good. I think Chris can be good in his role. Thad can be good in his role. All these guys can be good in their role if they had one guy who can carry them forward. We saw that last night with Scotty propelling them forward. But who is that guy consistently off the bench that does that? They don't have that, right? And I suppose it should be Malachi or Delano. But Delano's been really rusty coming off of injury. When he did play against Houston, it was really, really terrible and didn't play again. And then when Malachi has played, he's been a defensive liability a lot of times. Otherwise, he's been okay at catch and shoot threes. He's obviously was really hot for a while, then he got really cold for a while. But the thing is, overall, the playmaking just isn't really there with him. And that's where you need more of anything than from a third guard. And that's where you have needed to see the front office go outside of the organization to bring that player in for the last 2 seasons, whether that's at the trade deadline last year, whether that was an offseason last year, whether that was the offseason this past year. And they haven't really done that, right? And of course, that's when you see the overextension for some of the guys on the roster. Right, Pascal has to play a ton,
Mhm.
and he has to carry the bench group, or Scotty has to really take over and carry the bench group, or Fred has to really take over and carry the bench group. We've even seen Gary plus bench, which doesn't really
Mhm.
make sense to me because he doesn't make plays for others. But ultimately, like that shouldn't be a responsibility that falls on them. They need to get somebody off the bench. That's been clear for like 2 summers. Like I think last year, if you check the data, the show that we did on February 6th, we probably said the exact same thing. We need a third guard because Malachi and Delano aren't it.
Yeah, we've been talking about that, talking about addressing the center position. And, I do think that that's been the biggest flaw of the front office. And like maybe that's the one thing you might regret when you see the team kind of get pulled apart this week is like what this would have looked like with the starting lineup, but with some depth. Um, so who do you think if you were to predict is moving this week?
Um, I mean, who knows, right? Like honestly, like who knows? Really, you do see a lot of like speculation at this time. I'm sure some people talk to the Raptors front office directly. Other people are mostly going off of what other front offices have said,
Mm-hmm.
which is usually agenda driven, and then also what agents have said, which can also be agenda driven at times. Because I don't even think agents are fully filled in on what the front office want to do at this time. But you do hear a lot of reports. Um, and the reports are that yeah, OG is probably the most likely to be moved on the team. And when you look at OG, the only thing with OG is just like obviously he's very important. He's definitely a contributor to winning. But when you're making a trade, it's like who can you get back first off, and you can clearly tell that OG will bring you back quite a bit if you choose to move him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing too is do you have someone to replace him? And that's where with Precious, even though they're very different types of players, Precious has done a really good job replacing him in the starting group. And you could say that Precious has done a good job replacing in the past, like I don't know. We've seen him replace Fred in the starting group or him replace Gary in the starting group. Maybe Precious just a good starter
Mm-hmm.
who should probably get that position regardless. But I think in particular with OG, like you can see that when you put Precious into the starting group, he can contribute. The rebounding of the team improves, the shot blocking of the team improves. As good as OG is on the wing, like so much of modern basketball, the reason why so many centers win the defensive player of the year is because centers, especially helping at the rim, is going to change so much for you defensively than a shutdown wing player, especially because teams aren't playing one-on-one anymore. They can just screen and get a switch and move him off. Um, and that's where like you do see with Precious, even though he's not a true center, he can affect a lot of shots at the basket, help you with the rebounding, help you with the physicality down low. There is a case to be made there and that he already deserves to start. And so, yeah, when you put in all those factors together, like it probably is OG that's the odd man out. I'd still keep my eye on Gary, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not fully convinced that the Raptors are just like, oh yeah, we've completely turned it around and we buy into him because they didn't ever seem like they were like so high on him in the first place. Um, and then obviously there's rumors around Fred. I mean, I think that's the Kyrie thing, which we'll talk about in the second side of the break, is that like, yeah, he got moved. But I think one of the things with the Kyrie trade is just like it showed that there is a really robust market for point guards. And obviously Kyrie is one of the most skilled point guards of all time. And so there's going to be value based on his skill. But I think it clearly shows to me that both teams in LA want a point guard
Mm-hmm.
upgrade. Or just straight up a point guard, period. And then also Phoenix is really desperate for a point guard. So there is a robust point guard market if you are looking to move Fred. But yeah, I mean, who knows which team will be here on Thursday? I'm curious to see it. But yeah, as for the current product in its current form, is weak. That's all I'm trying to say. I've been saying this
No,
for months on this, but
no,
it's weak.
you've
So
been
people might want to see changes just to see something different.
you've been banging the drum on the consumer thing, and you've been absolutely correct. It's hard to watch this team right now.
Mm.
It's really hard, but thankfully there's only one more game until the trade deadline, and apparently Bobby Webster is going to be speaking tomorrow, doing
Yeah?
his little pre-trade deadline thing.
What
I
did they say?
believe. I don't know. I've just heard through the grapevine. Yeah.
Really? This guy
Yeah.
got purse sources on
No,
the
no.
media schedule?
Yeah,
Why can't you just text Josh and ask, man?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Let's text him and ask right now.
Try to Let me text him during the break.
Okay.
But yeah, no, we have a lot of just trade rumor roundup and stuff because there is not a lot of Raptors stuff on court to break down right now.
Fair enough. Okay, we're gonna take that break. I'm your host, Willu. That's Alex One. You're listening to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Welcome back to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, Wayne Liu. Continue to be joined by producer and co-host Alex Wong. Finally, we're able to talk about trade deadline stuff, which is what everyone wants to talk about, really.
Yeah.
The games right now are just kind of like a distraction from the trade deadline.
It's a downer right now, man. On to better news. Kyrie Irving he requested his trade on Friday. This literally happened like when we were talking to Gary Trent Sr.
I'm so happy. We finally had a trade saga that only lasted a day and a half. Literally Friday afternoon, Kyrie's like, yo, the extension talks with Brooklyn didn't really work out. I want to trade. And by Sunday, lunchtime on Sunday, he's gone.
Yeah, Sean Marks and Joe Tsai, gathered all the offers over the weekend.
Yeah.
And I was actually listening, once again, I was in bed listening to a hashtag This League Uncut with Mark Stein and Chris Haynes.
Do you leave the phone on the pillow beside you?
Yeah, I do, actually.
Yo, that's
and I have one AirPod in because I need to sleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So anyways, this time of year, I love consuming my pods. And, apparently they huddled up at 5 in the morning on Sunday and basically just went through all the offers and decided that they were going to go with the Dallas offer. So the trade was Kyrie and Markieff Morris to Dallas for Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, DFS, DF West better.
Yeah, DF West way
2027 second round pick, an unprotected 2029 first round pick, and also a second round pick in that year. All things,
so Kyrie really got traded for a 12-year-old. So the 2029 pick is 12 right now.
So all things considered, like, I don't know. I saw a lot of people being like, "Oh, both teams lost a trade." I feel like all things considered, like Brooklyn made out okay if you just look at this in isolation. If you look at it as a whole, based on what they had to give up for Harden and then what they had to trade Harden for, all this stuff, like it's not worked out for them. Like they literally have one of their vibes guys, like Spencer Dinwiddie, who was part of the last iteration of the Nets, back with them. But considering that Kyrie wanted out, like I don't think this is a bad return for the Nets.
It's hard to say because you do get a lot of like, okay, other teams offered this, right? And it's interesting to me because like you only had like a day to gather together your best offer. So I suppose that this was the best one that they liked.
Yeah. Do you want to hear the other offers that are being
what were the other
reported?
offers?
So first of all, with the caveat that it's been reported by Mark Stein and Chris Haynes confirmed too that Joe Tsai very much did not want Kyrie to get his preferred destination of going to the Lakers. So shouts to Joe on that.
I'm actually that's kind of hard. I don't know if I fully believe that. Because I've seen Joe Tsai bend over for these guys all the time. So it's not like
listen, Joe Tsai
is now just being like, screw you. I'm going to have my way and nothing else.
He had to get one small W at the end. But apparently the Lakers offered their 2 first-round picks that we've talked about, the 2027 and 2029.
Yeah.
And Russell Westbrook's contract to make work. And what the Nets did was go back to the Lakers and say that they would also want Austin Reeves and Max Christie. And I believe they wanted a couple of more pick swaps as well.
Yeah.
So I think they were just doing it in a way, like not actively not trading them there, but really just asking for like everything.
I mean,
which, by the way, like Austin Reeves and Max Christie, if that's everything,
that's not a lot of everything. This is tough. I think to me the only regret here is not being able to see Westbrook play with KD again. I know they're like kind of squashed the beef, but it would be mad awkward to see it.
No, KD would have been moved by today.
Well, that would have been great.
Yeah. And also the Clippers reportedly offered Luke Kennard, Terrence Mann, a future first and 2 pick swaps for Kyrie. These are like pretty sizable offers when you consider the picks.
Yeah, I don't know because these are all what I would call half a Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, no,
it's
that's
not
fair.
even half of a Rudy Gobert trade here. But I mean, the thing with Terrence Mann, I mean, I understand that people are excited about him. He's low key 26. He's like a Jeff Down low key 26.
Jeff Down's 26.
Yeah, right? Super low key, right? So, by the way, big 3 by Jeff Down over the weekend. I was watching Raptors 905 basketball. I was waiting for the 111 bus at Kipling Station.
That's cool. Yeah.
And so I happened to whip out my phone and watch the 905 game. Just so happened in the 4th quarter. And by the way, the Mobley family is now 0 for 5 against the Raptors this season.
Oh, okay.
Because Isaiah Mobley was on the Canton charge. And they lost back-to-back games against the 905. But yeah,
so we have that to hang on to.
Sure, yeah, we're 5-0 against Mobley's.
No, because
big 3 by Jeff Down though.
That Clippers offer was interesting because Zach Lowe did say on the low post on Friday that the Raptors basically won't. And again, he's saying this is his gut based on talking to execs because he didn't want to get aggregated. But here you are, Zach. That the Clippers can't get Fred without including Terrence Mann in a trade. So I wonder, like, if that's the trade offer for Kyrie, and if these are some of the trade offers out there that teams are willing to put out for Kyrie, what that might look like for Fred.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably fairly similar in terms of just the fact that those are going to be the teams involved, and those are pretty much the assets that they have to work with.
But like that Clippers deal wouldn't get you excited to make a deal.
I'm just not that thrilled with Terrence Mann. I mean, like, again.
What about the draft picks, though? The draft capital that you're getting back?
A lot of these draft capitals we're talking about, like 2027.
Sure.
You know, obviously the Clippers made a lot of their picks available in the deal to get, you know, the original sin, as it were, to get Kawhi and PG.
Oh, right, yeah.
So they're still paying for that. So we got to literally get their picks after OKC has gotten all their picks now. It's wild. So that wasn't thrilling me. I think probably, you know, if you were to move Fred, I mean, you probably will look for more immediate pieces where I think Phoenix has probably more of those. So I maybe look in that direction. Like, again, like you do see the Raptors, like, you know, you do hear whispers of like, okay, they like DeAndre Ayton, for example. We've seen that reported a couple of times. It's like, okay, maybe can you make a move there, right? And of course, the pieces, you know, you would use are probably more of your tangible pieces. Like I mean, I don't even know if that's a great return. But I mean, to me, it's just like, if you're trading Fred, like, how are you going to replace some of the things that Fred brings to you, right? Which is the fact that you need 3-point shooting on the team. You need ball handling and creation on the team. Like, are you going to be able to return something that at least potentially replaces some aspect of that? Maybe I'm not even asking for all of those.
Yeah. Because they would literally not have a point guard. I mean, they would technically have guys who play point.
And listen, and whatever, if the Raptors want to go into more of this like only forwards thing, I get it, right? They gotta change their logo to only forwards. But like, even if you do that, you still need people who can shoot the basketball on the team, right? And when you watch these games, it's so clear. Like the Raptors have been playing with 2 shooters recently, with OG going down, right? And typically only have 3. If you're gonna trade 1 or 2 or 3 of these at the deadline, can we at least have 1 shooter back in return? Like, we might see the Raptors like make less than 10 threes a game on average going forward if this is what the roster is going to be, right?
Yeah, so it'd be the same as before the
I'd be looking for at least 1 shooter in return, just for the watchability of the game. Again, I'm so concerned about it, you know?
You want a shooter and a point guard? May I interest you in Chris Paul? Apparently Chris Paul is very available right now. It was reported by Chris Haynes.
Right.
That the Suns offered Chris Paul, Jay Crowder, and draft picks for Kyrie, which is really the most interesting one to me. I think we've heard that, you know, I think because they have a new owner coming in, Matt Ishbia, and apparently he's going to be taking over this week, like before the deadline.
Sure.
And, you know, new owners always try to make, you know, a big move. You saw in Minnesota, as they did with Rudy Gobert. And it does seem like now there's more and more noise that they're ready to move on from CP. Like, to put CP on the table for Kyrie is a pretty big move.
No, I think Chris Paul is still a productive player, a player who is pretty good. I mean, obviously he's good. I mean, we saw him playing against the Raptors. He was a pain to play against both games. The one they lost in Toronto, he had a lot of turnovers in that game. The second time, I thought him running the pick and roll was really good. Obviously, we're talking about the point guard here. I mean, he's old, but he can still play. I think it's just like, you can't rely on him to be your first or second option. Like, he's probably in the Kyle Lowry stage of his career. Remember when Lowry won the championship with Toronto? Like, he was like sometimes the second option. Clearly, Kawhi was the number 1 option. Pascal, I think, in terms of scoring, was the number 2 option. Right, and then you had other guys who stepped up at certain times, right? Even Fred, I thought, you know, in the Golden State series or in the Bucks series, he was definitely one of their top few options as well. Kyle was able to pick his spots more and more distribute and play in a role like that, and I think that's the role that he needs to find. To be honest, he could kind of do that in Phoenix if they got more upgrades, but they have no other like recourse to improve their roster. And obviously, he's getting older, and yeah, I mean, if they can get if they like Fred as their future point guard, then, you know, there's conversations to be had between Toronto and Phoenix, I think.
Yeah, I think Cam Johnson's probably the player that everybody's looking at in terms of if you do.
Another guy who's low-key 26.
Yeah. Man.
I'm not to say that 26-year-olds, you know, you're done and you're set, but like.
No, I get it. It's different than getting like a 21, 22-year-old type prospect.
I'm down with Cam, by the way. I like him.
No, me
He's
too.
a good
I
player,
think
yeah.
I think especially if you're thinking about all the talk is just that they're gonna try to turn the page and build around like Scotty, right? Like if you want to
Mhm.
get players more in that age range, you're probably looking to accumulate more guys that are in like the Scotty and Precious as well, right?
Sure,
So,
sure.
but
I
yeah,
think
no,
my thinking with that, and just to take a quick sidebar in terms
mhm,
of like shifting towards a Scotty based timeline, is
yep,
I want to see Scotty like take over like that in the fourth quarter, but on a consistent basis.
sure,
And that's not to say I want him to score 13 points a quarter because he'd be, the best player in the league. But what I mean is like that intention, that willingness to sort of like attack and drive is to me like something that I just need to see on a consistent basis, right? Not like kind of picking and choosing his spots, but like, can he do that all the time? Is he willing to do it all the time? Is that his disposition to do it all the time?
hmm
Because right now, when you have other guys on the team, like, and maybe you could say that like, okay, he's fading in and out of these games because he has other guys on the team to sort of like turn the reins over to or to grab the reins from. But at the same time, it's like you do not see that kind of consistent effort all the time. And not effort in terms of like he's not playing hard because he really is of late.
hmm
But I mean like that impetus to attack and create and generate offense. And that's what I want to see more of. Like I think, one of the other things I noted in my piece was just like Scotty on the team right now is fourth in terms of drives per game. And this is very much like a Nick Nurse wants you to drive the ball into the paint and then make a play from there, right? That's like the offense is actually fairly simple when you really think about it. And so Scotty's averaging 5.8 drives per game.
hmm
That's fourth on the team. It's only one more drive per game than Gary, who is actually making a decent number of his drives. They just end up being shots in the mid range, but still he's able to drive. OG averages more drives. And then Pascal and Fred. Pascal's at over 15 drives per game, and Fred's at 14 drives per game. So that's more than double. In some cases, almost triple what Scotty does.
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, you might be able to move one of those guys and give all those drives to Scotty, but I need to be convinced that he will take all those
Right.
extra opportunities. Because when you even look at league wide, Scotty's like 113th in drives per game. And that's not the only factor I'm looking at, but especially in this offense with Nick Nurse running it, you do need to see your player drive the ball repeatedly over and over and over again. And so I just want to see that, willingness first on a consistent basis. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, and this is something that the front office has to think about as well. Is like depending on which players you move this week, like what kind of role Scotty's going to play in the offense moving forward. Like just depending on the mix of the team. Yeah, back to the Kyrie thing. So Kyrie and KD ended up playing just 74 games together during their, I think, like 4 seasons.
Has it been 4 years already?
Yeah, because they signed after the Raps won the championship.
Yeah.
So this would be their 4th season, right? 5th? Yeah, 4th season.
4th season, yeah.
Yeah, I was actually shocked at that number. I knew it wasn't very high, but 74 is pretty ridiculous. And you
Well-
think about like a month ago, they were playing so well, moving up the standings,
know.
like even an outside chance of maybe even getting a 1 seed or 2 seed.
The
Like,
vibes
they
were different.
right there.
People were like, wow, look at Jacques Vaughn. His beard is going from gray to black. Like, it was like everything was healing in Nets land. And of course, Kyrie's like, yeah, no. I mean, in this case, like, what did the Nets really think? Like, if they really wanted to keep it rolling, they needed to sign Kyrie. And it seemed
That's
like Kyrie
fair.
was willing to stay. They just weren't willing to offer him the contract that he wanted.
Yeah, but do you put that against them though, based on just like how self-destructive Kyrie has been, right? It's literally a month-to-month thing.
Here's the thing. If you want to maximize this current window with Brooklyn, you needed to give him that contract and worry about that later. Clearly, you could trade him later, right? There wasn't like a
I
situation
think
where,
that's fair.
LA next year is going to be like, oh, yeah, we're going to say no to Kyrie. It's like Kyrie's already done all this, and then Dallas is like, I'll put my hand up. I'll take him. LA's like, I'll take him. The other LA team's like, I'll take him. Phoenix is like, I'll take him, right? So there's no like actual thing that I guess he could do beyond this that could make it even more toxic. So he was like, yeah, teams are willing to bet on that talent. So from Brooklyn's perspective, you sign him to that longer term deal and then you worry about it later because you need to maximize this current season. And instead, now there's going to be another net season where it's going to be very, very questionable.
Yeah, and it does make me wonder. I mean, Bobby Marks was saying that most likely if KD's going to be available, it'll be in the summer, not over the next 4 days.
I mean, who knows?
But
Who knows with Brooklyn,
it's
man?
been pretty quiet on the KD front.
Yeah, because he's been injured. Like,
Stephen A. Smith did say on First Take. By the way, we're just rounding up all the rumors
yeah,
this
sure,
week.
go ahead.
He said this morning on First Take that quote, by the way, I'm hearing that KD's on the verge of potentially being moved.
Really? Yeah.
Obviously, we've all been speculating about that he may be moved. I'm hearing Boston is making some calls.
No, man.
Keep an
come
eye on
I'd be so
Jalen.
sick.
Keep your eye on Jalen Brown. Keep your eye on that.
Really? Well, I guess I was the rumor in the offseason, but
that would really be hashtag this league though. If KD goes to Boston this week,
That's kind of sick. That's actually that'd be a nice deal.
I mean, this goes back to the summer though, because I think that was one of the proposed trades that was mentioned, like with the Celtics trade Jaylen Brown for KD.
But the Celtics denied that. Of course, I mean, of course
Sure.
they would deny that, but still.
Man, I feel like if you're Boston, you make that move. Do you make that move?
Man.
KD is under contract for like 3 more years.
Look how good Jaylen Brown already is, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's not as good as KD, but
are we doing the
he's
thing?
Like 90% as good as KD at the current moment.
Are we doing the thing where we're underrating KD again?
No, we're not.
Okay.
But
because is there a way he can find his way to Toronto? I guess the situation has really changed here.
No.
Toronto.
I mean, I think
during the summer we were like one piece away.
During the summer, it was like, look, we have a great culture here. We just won 48 games. Here's some young pieces. We'll make it happen to you, and it made sense potentially then. Right now, I don't think players are like, oh, let me get my way to Toronto. Like that's not happening because of the fact that this whole season happened. So
should have made it in the summer. Kevin O'Connor from The Ringer said that one of the teams Brooklyn has been most connected to is the Raptors.
Okay,
who have had trade talks with multiple teams involving Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I don't buy the Pascal stuff. I really don't. I'd be very surprised if Pascal got moved in the deadline.
Like you mentioned, this time of year, it's like, there's a difference between just like having conversations.
Yeah, sure.
Like,
sure.
I think it's fair for the front office to just have conversations.
But like, what could Brooklyn have offered for Pascal? Like, obviously, we weren't taking Kyrie. KD wasn't really on the table. I mean, if KD's on the table for Pascal, I'm sorry, Pascal, but we'd have to make some moves. But like, I don't really see the fit. I mean, especially if they were going to use the rest of their assets to try to spin into Pascal. Like, I suppose it'd be Ben Simmons. Like, no, there's no way. We should ride in Toronto if the Messiah traded Pascal for Ben Simmons.
Next from KOC.
Yeah.
The Raptors had interest in Simmons in 2021 when the 76ers were shopping him.
Oh, yeah, we know that.
Though Scotty Barnes' emergence would make Simmons a strange fit as they're both non-shooters.
I said this on the show.
He does count as a buy low, high value target.
The value's low. That's not a buy low.
No, this is a Costco giveaway right now.
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
What would you do if Ben Simmons was a Raptor by the end of this week?
Oh, man.
How would you handle that?
I'd give Ben Simmons a number to my therapist.
Oh my God.
I'm serious.
But Bobby Marks did say today that this was the funniest report, that Ben Simmons has 0 trade value around the league, which I don't think is any surprise.
It's a real question mark to trade for Ben.
He's owed $80 million the next 2 seasons, by the way.
I'm not even worried about his money necessarily. I'm worried about, like, is he able to perform right now?
Oh, man. I really want to know what KD's thinking right now.
No, it's a hard no to Simmons, though. My goodness.
No, the Pascal thing.
The last thing we need is another 6'9" forward who can't shoot.
Man. The what's I going to say? Oh, yeah, the Pascal thing, like, I think even if he were to be available, like, I'm with you, like, I don't think Brooklyn even comes close to having the best offer at all. Like, if you're looking at teams who might be interested.
I agree.
But the OG thing, I mean, if Brooklyn really is committed to trying to make more moves and trying to win around KD this year, could they find a way to get a deal done for OG? I just don't know what they would be offering on the way back, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I
like who on the
Brooklyn
Nets?
is just not a team that is flush with talent. Like, I'm sorry. Like, they have like win now pieces, which I don't really think fit the Raptors.
Mm-hmm.
They have, I don't even know, like Nick Claxton. I mean, they wouldn't move Nick Claxton for OG.
Or
it
like
makes no
Cam
sense for
Thomas.
them. And Nick Claxton for OG is interesting, I suppose, but only interesting in the sense that Nick Claxton has really taken a leap. And if you really buy into this is what he is going forward, then of course you think about that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. I doubt it. I think there are other ways to move OG. I think, like, we literally spent last week talking about OG being traded and stuff like that. And I think I'd much rather have those conversations with Memphis or Phoenix.
Yeah.
Although Memphis, watching some of those guys up close, I'm like, I know it wasn't the greatest game from their bench, but man, that's a lot of 6 points, 3 points on that bench.
You're not interested in Tyus Jones and Brandon Clark?
I'm good.
All right.
Clark maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. What about Fred for Brooklyn? There's been some chatter about that too, that he could fit there, but I just
Again, who do you want for Brooklyn?
I just don't
like. Give me KD or we don't have a conversation, man.
Man,
you can have Otto Porter for Yuta Watanabe, which obviously they wouldn't say yes to right now.
Yeah, no, I think. I mean, it'd be pretty wild if KD is on the move this week.
Yeah, like is Cam Thomas moving you? No, it's not for me, man. I'm good.
Yeah, I just don't know what there is there. From the Hoop Collective,
The best pod out there,
Tim
the best NBA
McMahon.
pod in the world.
Shouts to Pound the Rock. Tim
Second.
McMahon said that the Magic are ready to throw a bag at Fred VanVleet this summer.
Okay, yeah.
So I think we know that, and
I
also
wouldn't be surprised.
Portland apparently is in a buy now mode,
Oh,
and which
wow.
I don't particularly understand, but I guess they're kind of in with trying to build a winner around Dame.
That's it. That's the whole thing.
And that, they could be in the market if OG is available, but the offer, the Raptors would want Shaedon Sharp, which is, I guess,
that's a fair deal. I mean,
which is,
I don't know if necessarily I would do that because I think with Shaedon Sharp, it's much more like potential right now. We haven't seen enough. Obviously, he didn't really play in college. Barely even has enough of a high school sample to go off of, but you can also watch him in the moments and the highlights you've seen him, and it's like, wow, there's clearly a lot of talent and flashes here, but that consistent production hasn't really translated yet. Obviously, he's a rookie with a lot of like lack of experience, so you're not expecting him to just jump in and dominate. But yeah, that's more of a question mark for me. And honestly, if that's a deal that Toronto liked, why didn't they just do that in the offseason, like in the draft? They had the chance to do it.
I guess, like you said, circumstances have changed.
Yeah, even like Dyson Daniels from New Orleans, for example, like he was picked after Sharp. So if they liked Daniels that much, they could have made that move at that time as well.
Yeah, and the Lakers swap now doesn't look as appealing because they're both kind of just the same in the standings.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what happens there too. LeBron, by the way, tweeted maybe it's me after the Kyrie trade.
He is really he's trapped in a prison of his own making, really, in LA, like a retirement home of his own making. Like he chose to move all the pieces out for AD, which obviously he did the dampering, which he literally had the whole agency and everything together. Like him and LeBron and Clutch really made everything happen, built his team, won one chip in the bubble.
Yeah.
And ever since then, he's been living with the consequences. Of course, he also made the trade for Westbrook, which was not smart. But
Rich Paul was with Adele yesterday at the Grammys.
I saw that, yeah.
And he looked very distracted. I think LeBron was just texting him the whole time, being like, "Yo, you better come over after this is done. No partying tonight.
Yo, imagine
we need to find a point guard."
No one in the world was needed more than Rich Paul was last night, because you literally have Adele at the Grammys. Like, it's a huge thing. Like, your entire focus should just be as a partner in that moment. But of course, it's also literally trade deadline. This guy probably got 100 players in the league, or I mean 100, so 50 players in the league, and they're like, "Yo, what's going on?" He's like, "Yo, I can't."
What if the Lakers?
I'm literally at the Grammys.
What if the Lakers offer those two, the 7th grader and the 9th grader picks, and you can make the money work, and for Fred and Gary?
Oh man, I mean,
what if they just
really have to believe that the Lakers will have nothing, just absolutely nothing in those years, and maybe they won't. Maybe the Lakers are just going to be the
2027. I think they would have moved on.
Yeah,
from like LeBron.
They probably would have signed another set of stars, and tried to be competitive at that time, because the Lakers are not really a team that's going to actively tank that much. Although they did in advance of AD. So
because I think the Lakers are under pressure to do something. Because I don't know if you can just hand Braun Rui Hachimura as your upgrade.
Can't you get more for Fred and Gary in separate deals and flipping them both to the Lakers?
What if they just offer one of those picks for Gary?
7th grade.
Yeah, I mean that's.
I guess it really depends on how you value those picks. You don't seem to be valuing those picks
in the 7th grade.
Yeah, no man, that's LeBron scouting Scotty Barnes in the 7th grade, by the way.
No, you don't seem like you value those picks maybe as much as people around.
I don't think that even the league is going to value the picks that much.
In the 7th grade.
All right, so no deal to that.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'd rather get multiple pieces, and that's the thing too. I'd love to see the Raptors add some depth around it. Like, I'd love to see a 2-for-1 trade, a 3-for-1.
You want players back, not just
I want players and picks back. But ultimately, that can turn into 3 players rather than just 1 player straight up, or 1 pick straight up. So,
well, 3 more days.
Can't wait. Can't wait
it.
for more trade deadline talk.
Yeah, we did it.
Yeah. Okay. We're done for today. I've been your host, Willu, and you've been listening to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Make sure you find the Raptors Show wherever you listen to podcasts, and subscribe, and please rate and review the show. A reminder, we're streaming live on Sportsnet's YouTube channel and airing live on Sportsnet 360 Monday to Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. By the way, on Thursday, during the trade deadline itself, we will be on air from 2 to 4 because we will be extending our show to cover the trade deadline. So check us out then, of course. In the meantime, thanks to producer and co-host Alex Wong. Thanks to our board producer Derek Vandale and Jennifer Ona for helping us with the YouTube stream. And we'll be back to talk to you tomorrow.